Thank you, everyone, for joining the Proving the Value of Agile Programs webinar. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. I've got Jack J. Phillips, Chairman of the ROI Institute. I've got Nagesh Sharma, CEO of FlowSphere. He'll be answering some questions for us. I've got Steve Talent, Director of Agile Enablement. He too will be answering questions in the chat. And I got Ravi Verma, CEO of Smooth Apps, who will be joining Jack in the facilitation of this webinar. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Jack Phillips and Ravi Verma.
Thank you, Andy. Good morning. Welcome to our session. We have a very fast-paced session to discuss this important issue. How do you show the impact and ROI of Agile programs? We have some materials for you. We have a chapter 4 of this book, Value for Money. It's our most recent book that goes into lots of detail around how do you show the value of any program, including Agile. And that shows you the how-to, a summary of a lot of detail around what we covered today. And then the short version of that is an application guide, ROI Methodology in 12 easy steps. We know it's easy when it's in print. That's what it says. We're going to show you today that it is 12 easy steps. Logic, flow of data. That's a 32-page guide. That's a quick summary. So that takes a 500-page book, puts it into 32 pages. So you'll have the chapter and the reference and the slides are your resources. Our objectives are very straightforward. We want to make sure that we understand the possible data sets that will come from any Agile program you might be offering. And think about the categories of data desired by the executives who support us and provide our funding. And then think about designing the programs that we have to deliver application, impact, and ROI. And that's a critical issue. Application is using our principles, skills, and knowledge around Agile, and impact is a consequence of that application. And ROI, of course, is the financial accountability, showing the cost versus the benefits. So we'll get more detail into that. And we want you to think about where you want to go with this. We have a little project that Andy will describe at the end where we want to keep going with you if you want to show the value of your programs. I know depending on where you are, you probably fall into one of these categories. I think many of you are in the software development area. Some are in digital transformation. Some are in project management. Some in product development, instructional system design, and even leadership. Agile has been around for some time now, but it probably became more formal when a group of software developers developed the Agile Manifesto 20 years ago. And that provided 12 principles that I think most of what we're doing now is probably developed around that. For example, here's a recent book called Agility, written by a couple of executives. And in this book, Agility, here's the definition: the organizational capacity to effectively detect, assess, and respond to environmental changes in ways that are purposeful, decisive, and grounded in the will to win. Now, who could resist that? I mean, you have to want to do that. And when you do, what happens is that we invest more. And when you invest more, we have questions about ROI. So I'd like to understand now, why are you here today? Why are you interested in ROI of Agile programs? And so we have some options. This is polling. Andy's going to release the polling opportunity here for you to check any or all that apply. Hey, top executives are requiring impact and ROI. I have to pursue this. That may be why you're here. Or I have pressure to justify my budget and I need this. Or I will need to show more value in the future after the pandemic here. And number 4, I want to show increased accountability for our expenditures. After all, they're spending money on this. I need to show what they're getting for the money. And finally, I'm trying to experiment here with new ways to maybe evaluate and show the value of what I'm doing. So what do we have there for the polls?
We're getting some good responses here. I'm going to go ahead and share the results. So it looks like 25% are saying top executives require impact. 8% are saying I've just pressure to justify. We got 42% for the next one, 33% for accountability of our expenditures. And the winner is 50%. I want to experiment with and explore new techniques to measure program success.
Hey, hey, that's good. See, it tells us that for the most part, we're more proactive. As you go down that list, that's moving from reactive to proactive. And we want to be proactive because if you've got an executive asking for ROI now and you hadn't planned for it, that's really a jam that you're in. You can get there. It's a little more difficult because when you have that request, it's usually a short timeline to show something, and you're now defensive. You're trying to defend your program, and ROI is on someone else's agenda. You want to really keep it on your agenda. So we can work with you individually if you like. If you feel yourself being in a jam for the first 1 and 2 there, but for most of you, it's on down the list, which is good news. So we want to start here with Ravi telling us a great story to get us in the right frame of mind to go into this material. So Ravi?
All right, thank you, Jack. So before I start my story, I want to make a request to you about the mental stance that I would suggest you take to get maximum ROI from this webinar. All right. What Jack and Steve, Nagesh, and I have done is over the past many years, we have had a ringside seat to seeing how companies destroy the ROI of transformation programs. It could be agile transformation, digital transformation. There are certain anti-patterns that occur repeatedly. The goal of this webinar is to give you a sneak peek into what are the leading indicators or the warning signs that your transformation program is heading towards a ditch, that it's going to destroy ROI. Our goal in this webinar is to give you a heads up. So if you see those signs, you call a timeout and you apply some of the techniques that Jack is going to share to course correct and prevent the needless destruction of ROI in the name of transformation. All right. So that's the stance I want you to be in. You may be in different roles. You could be someone who's designing an L&D program. You could be an agile practitioner. You could be an agile trainer, or you could be someone who's in the C-suite who's trying to make sure every dollar spent on learning creates ROI. It doesn't matter what role you're playing. Watch out for these warning signs and file some of the techniques that Jack will share to protect your company. All right. So with that, let me start with a story. So it's been more than a year since we've been in this pandemic, and chances are many of us are frustrated. We are looking back at the days gone by when we used to have a normal life. And one of my favorite memories is taking my kids to ballet. So I have 2 girls, and the first time I took them to ballet, it was like herding cats. Half the kids were crying, I want mommy, I want mommy. Some of them were practicing, some were not. I was like, oh my God, how are these people going to create a recital in 9 months in front of an audience, right? But what I loved about the teachers was that they created psychological safety. Learning cannot happen without psychological safety. So no matter where the child was, the teacher was always loving, reassuring, kind. And what I loved at the end of the class was no matter how frustrating the class may have been, every single child at the end of the class got a lollipop, and every single child got a sticker. So the teacher made learning fun. And the children over time started looking forward to class. They developed new micro habits, new ways of being. And over time, I noticed an evolution or a transformation. Pretty much all the children started practicing regularly. 9 months later, I was surprised at the transformation. The same children who used to say, I want mommy, which is including my child, they gave such an amazing performance in front of a jam-packed auditorium. This was beautiful. I never thought it was possible, right? I saw my child transformed, and in that auditorium, there was ROI for learning for me. My child developed an appreciation for practicing, for following through, for demonstrating grit, which is necessary in life. And my child started believing that they could do something that they may have thought was impossible. They developed a new way of being. They developed new micro habits that will serve them well in life. It was beautiful. But anyway, I long for those days, but I don't know if and when those days will come back. Let's come back to planet Earth and to the present, which is the reality. All right. So as we come back to the COVID world, or the post, as we are heading into the post-COVID world, there are a few things which are breaking my heart. Restaurants in my neighborhood that I used to love, many of them are no longer in existence. But I'm seeing a strange split screen moment. Some restaurants like Chipotle are doing business like gangbusters, like their earnings are going through the roof. And I started wondering, what is the difference? We are all subjected to the same change. Some people are thriving and some are dying. What is the difference? This is why many companies are trying to figure out, how can I survive in this new post-pandemic world? And what we are noticing is the differentiator between those who survive and those who die are probably at least one of these 5 categories. And you may find your business or your nonprofit in one of these areas. Reason number 1, businesses that are dying are struggling to deliver a minimum viable product to their customers. Customer needs are changing in the post-pandemic world. So what the business thinks is viable is completely useless for the customer, like an empty toilet paper roll. They can't use it. Those businesses are dying. Reason number 2, businesses are so quick to deliver to market, they sacrifice quality. Customers are ruthless. They will vote with their dollars. They will not be a customer. They'll go to your competitor who has better quality. Reason number 3 for dying, there is a lot of waste and rework. Businesses are spending precious dollars redoing and redoing delivery of features because customers did not like them. You don't have the luxury in today's post-pandemic world. Reason number 4, maybe businesses are releasing valuable high-quality features, but they are traveling at the speed of molasses. By the time the feature gets to market, it's too late. Other businesses have beaten them and the customer is never coming back. Or businesses are making bad risk-reward decisions. They are taking more risk than their business can tolerate. So these are 5 reasons that companies are struggling, all right? So what do they do about it? This is where a lot of companies say, aha, transformation, digital transformation, agile transformation. Let's transform ourselves. And so they come to companies like ours and they say, can you design an agile transformation or a digital transformation learning program? Because we're going to execute the program and voila, we are going to survive in a post-pandemic world. So let's talk about agility. Agility is based on empiricism. And you may have seen empiricism when you go to see your doctor. And my wife is a doctor, so I know how it works. Before my wife prescribes a treatment to a patient, she starts by asking, what's the problem? What brings you here? She's going to check the vitals. She's going to use empiricism to see where your vitals are compared to where your vitals should be. And the delta between current reality and target reality is what she's going to use to create a diagnosis, a hypothesis, and prescribe a medicine or a treatment. And then she'll do it often enough until your target reality or vitals are equal to the current vitals. And then she says, you're good. All right. So we try to apply the same mindset when designing agile transformation learning programs. So when a client comes in and says, hey, can you design a learning program? The first thing we ask is, what's your target reality? What metrics are you going to use to figure out, did you or did you not get transformed? Now, here is the first warning sign I want you to watch out for. Most clients say, stay in your lane, shut up and train. Forget the metrics. You are a low-level training provider, just go and deliver the training, we'll be fine, we'll be transformed. I don't know those metrics. I don't know what those metrics are. I don't know where those metrics can be found. And the sad thing is the 2 most destructive metrics that are used to gauge the success of our agile transformation programs are certifications earned And there's a very toxic metric called velocity. So if you're part of a learning program and you hear these two words, ROI is going to be measured in certifications earned or velocity, that's a second marker that you're headed towards destruction of ROI. All right. So anyway, sometimes we do what is known as lollipop and sticker training. At the end of the training, during the training in the pre-COVID world, we give them good food, give the learners good food, so you get a good rating in the post-class survey. And then we start doling out stickers, which is certificates like nobody's business, like candies in Halloween. And voila, there is your ROI of transformation. All right. Needless to say, it doesn't work. Doling out candies in a training or food in training or doling out certificates does not help you earn the business of your customer. So instead of having a best-in-class transformation, you have a last-in-class transformation. And this is where your client gets upset, your CFO gets upset, your investor gets upset, and you get a call as the steward of ROI, and your stakeholders are saying, how could you let this happen? I spent so much time and money on this learning program, and you let me down. So this is where I started going to the world's most trusted authority on ROI, Jack. And then I started asking Jack, what would you do? So Jack, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ravi. Great story. And those 5 things you say about a business is probably the good basics for the principles in the Agile Manifesto. So the methodology that we're presenting to you had its beginnings in the 70s. We developed it inside an organization. It began to work and grow and flourish. We published the first book on this methodology in 1983, and it's grown since then. We now enjoy a lot of good use here. As you can see, it has reached the status of the most used system in the world now. And part of it is because it's used by so many organizations. The United Nations adopted it as their evaluation system of choice in their agencies in 2008. Now we've got 17 of those agencies have adopted it. 26 federal governments around the world have endorsed this. Over 300 healthcare organizations, 150 universities. You get the picture. 3/4 of the Fortune 500. Major foundations, including the largest one in the world. So it's used a lot. What does it mean? Well, we're going to show you that. But let's think about what we've been doing so far. Think about the data you collected now around your Agile program. You put a program in place. Maybe you're teaching someone how to do this, and they're doing it or not. What kind of data are you collecting now? So what do you see in terms of the value of what you're delivering now in the Agile world? And we have 4 statements here. So we want you to say, is that mostly true or mostly false based on what you've seen and experienced and witnessed? Mostly true, mostly false. We'll start with most Agile learning is wasted. That means it's not used and there's no corresponding impact. That's what we mean by waste that Ravi just talked about. What do you think? Is it wasted? True or false? Mostly true, mostly false. The Agile outcomes desired by executives are rarely used. That is, the people who give us the funding, we just don't provide data for them. We rarely measure that. So we're not measuring what the executives want. Mostly true, mostly false. And then number 3, most Agile providers, that's probably us, do not have data to show that we made a difference in the organization. Make a difference means that they're using what you're teaching them or providing to them, and it has an impact. That's the difference. That's making a difference. And then last, most executives see Agile as a cost and not an investment. What do you think? Mostly true, mostly false? So Andy, what do we have here?
Well, yes, excellent here. So for number 1, we're getting mostly true at 69%. For number 2, Agile outcomes desired by executives are rarely measured. 75% are saying true. For the third question, we've got 81% saying true. And then for the last one, most executives see Agile as a cost. We're seeing 75% true. So everyone is saying true.
True. Okay, we'd like to say false on those, right? So those are dangerous. If 69% saying what we're doing is wasting. Now, it's an admission to us, and we know it from experience, but it is a waste. And that is if they needed this but don't use it, that's a waste for the organization. Just imagine if you walk down to another function in an organization like procurement, and you ask them, so what percent of your budget do you waste? They quickly say, not any. We don't waste our budget. But here we are admitting that some of the work that we do is wasted, a lot of it. And it's dangerous not to measure what your executives want to see, particularly in these times, I would think. And we've got to make a difference. If we don't have data, we make a difference. We're extremely vulnerable now, particularly in post-pandemic area. And if executives see this as a cost and not an investment, which is what you're saying, hey, you know what they do? They cost. They cut it, they freeze it, they pause it, they eliminate it. But if it's an investment, they support it maybe, protect it maybe do more of it. So how do we show it's an investment? Maybe with the ROI, return on investment, using a calculation right out of the finance and accounting field to show what's the ROI of our Agile program. That's where we want to go with this. But it starts with the basics. A fundamental flow of data, a logic model, starts with these types of measures. We're going to have 5 levels of outcomes. One is reaction and planned action. You want people to come into your program seeing there's value in it. It's important to them. It's something that they would see as important to their success and that they will actually use, and they would recommend it to others maybe. And so they actually plan to use it based on that reaction. That's where we want to be. And of course, they have to learn some things, some knowledge and some skills about Agile, what it means, what they have to do, how they make it work. Learning and reaction go together, because the more they know, the more they learn, the more positive they react. So they're important. They're fundamentals, getting started. But we want to get them to use it. You just said that so many of them don't use it. So we have to work on that. We've been working on that for a long time, getting them to follow through and use it, apply it, application. See, we got to have them taking that extra step, doing something. That's what we're talking about here. But it needs to have an impact. There's a lot of impacts around time savings and quality measures and productivity measures that we can track and monitor. We got to have the impact. If you have application with no impact, they're just busy. But we know that the application is for a cause, and it's for a consequence, and that's the impact. And that's important, because the impact is what we'll convert to money to get to the ROI. We compare it to the cost of our Agile program. That's monetary benefits compared to cost. We're going to show you 2 ways to do that. But we don't want to lose sight of the intangibles. That's the measures that we did not convert to money. You see, we define an intangible as a measure that we purposely have chosen not to convert to money because we couldn't do it credibly with a reasonable amount of time. And that might mean collaboration and teamwork and stress and image, those kinds of things that maybe we just don't have the time to get to the money there. So there you have it. That's the levels of data. Now, let me just back up for a minute. This is a classic logic flow. This has an origin that dates back to the 1800s. Most of the evaluation systems in the world work off of this kind of logic model, logic flow of data. I think you would agree that it works. It works for Agile. It works for what you're doing. So we know there's a concern here. When you put your Agile program in place, you have a fear that, well, maybe I don't get the impact I wanted, or maybe the ROI is negative. That's difficult to deal with, isn't it? Well, if you're proactive, you can deal with it and make changes to make sure it does deliver that. Or better yet, why don't we start with the end in mind? Why don't we design our program to deliver the results. So let's bring a concept of design thinking out of the innovation field. That's an area we work in for many years. In one of our books, as you can see on Amazon, is The Value of Innovation. In the innovation field, brings that concept of design thinking. Basically, it says you get a clear picture of where you want to go, the end game, the impact measures in our case. Good picture of that, and we design for it. So if we do this, we become more than just an evaluation system. We become proactive. And so we have this system for actually designing for the results we want, delivering the results that we want, and of course, measuring the results that we want. And it starts here with why. Why we want to do this. And that's a good, clear connection to the impacts that we want to see out of this. We got to be more efficient. We got to have less errors. We've got to save costs. We got to be more productive. So we have those end games that are detailed quite clearly in the Agile Manifesto 20 years ago. And so we got to make sure that what we're doing is the right solution. Is this the right solution with this team to improve those business measures? Can we get there with this? That's validating we have the right solution. We call it make it feasible. And expect success. Expect success is making sure we have good, clear roadmap to get to where we want to be. We do 4 things here. We define the success of our project doesn't occur until we have the impact. We don't stop with the reaction and feedback data that Ravi was just describing. We got to go all the way to impact. All of us have got to go there. The best way for us to see what we have to do is objectives. So we're going to set objectives for reaction, for learning, for application, and impact. Good, clear, specific objectives, smart objectives. And we give those to everyone on our project to design for the data that we want, design for success at the impact level. What do we do, all of us, to make that work? We put tools and templates and processes in place and encouragement and support, communications, all kinds of things to make sure we have that success. And here's where we plan our study. We plan for collecting data. We plan for the analysis. That's 2 big planning documents that we want to do. Not so big, but 2 important ones, I should say. And then we go collect data. We collect data to make sure it mattered to the people involved. There we focusing level 1 and 2 data, reaction and learning. Does it matter to them? If it doesn't matter to them, it's dead anyway. And the learning they will have helps them make it matter and see that it matters to them. And then make it stick. That's a term that says we want them to use it. We're about making habits now, new habits. So we want them to use it and have the consequence, the impact. So we're capturing level 3 and 4 data there. Impact. That's where we want to be. That's where we started out. But now we've got to make sure it's credible. You see, we have now 5 steps here, all with the term make it credible, make it credible, make it credible, make it credible, make it credible. This is when you get the attention of executives, when you get to the impact. So it's got to be credible. So credible that if a chief financial officer is sitting in my presentation, as I brief the team on the results of our project, I got to get this person to buy into this and support this. So the first thing we do is sort out the effects of our Agile project from other influences. We know when we're working with some of these measures, we'll have other factors in play, other solutions out there, other initiatives. They're there, externally or internally to the organization. We're going to sort out what we've done. That's our first credibility issue. Now think about this. Think about 3 concepts that are out there all the time in our literature: hypothesis, evidence, and proof. Hypothesis. See, when we start with why, this is our hypothesis that this solution we're offering is going to improve these measures. That's our hypothesis. This data will show if we got there. When we collect data collection at level 4, Did that measure change? That's evidence. This is now the proof, proving that we made a difference, proving that this much of the improvement goes to what we've done. That's critical. You can imagine, incredible in terms of converting data to money. Got to make sure we're conservative in that analysis. The good news is that most of that's been done for us anyway, converting data to money. It's just a matter of finding it. And then we make sure that for those measures that we could not convert to money, we want to make sure they're connected to our program. That's the intangibles. We make sure that they are connected, and we collect that data from the most credible source. That's going to be the participants in our program here. They tell us if it's connected or not and how much it's connected. And then we make it credible by bringing in all the costs, all the direct and indirect cost of our Agile program, all of it. And we're going to calculate this using two of the most common ROI calculations on the planet: benefit cost ratio for those of you in governments, and ROI for those of you in business. We actually calculate both so you can see the difference in the two. It's really the same set of data, just presented a little different, in a different way. Now we're ready to tell a story. Tell a story means that we will show you data, 6 types of data: reaction, learning, application, impact, ROI, plus intangibles. That's the data, that's the numbers, and we're going to show you a narrative. That's the stories along the way as people reacted to this, as they've learned this, as they've used this, as they've had an impact. Stories with data, that makes a much better presentation. And then we're going to use that to optimize our results. You see, we measure to evaluate, and we improve to optimize. So we've optimized our results. We make a great case for funding. So we use a concept of black box thinking here. Black box thinking comes from the aviation field. We all know it. When a plane crashes, for example, the black boxes, the voice data recorder and the systems data recorder, tell us what happened, what caused it. And by policy, by regulation, by law, we make those changes. Through design, through new procedures, through new policy, through new training, something that we do to keep that from occurring again. That has made aviation travel the safest travel in the world. It's also makes an airplane flying at 35,000 feet, being in that airplane is one of the safest places you can be. It got that with a relentless focus on the process improvement. We're going to have that same focus here. If we got negative results, we're going to make it better, make it positive if we want it to be positive. If we got good results, we're going to make it even better. So we're increasing our likelihood of getting funding. And we clearly are showing our executives that what we do is an investment, not a cost, because we show a positive return on that investment. So there you have it. Just there's a lot of data out there that shows what executives want from all kinds of projects and programs. This is a summary of one involving input from 96 of the Fortune 500 CEOs. Their number one data set they want to see is impact. 96% says we want to see that, and 8% says we normally see that from these kinds of projects. And 74% says we want to see ROI, but only a small number see this. A lot of them say we see data about how happy people are with projects. That's reaction. Some data they see about learning. They don't much want that data because that's an operational measure for us. So what we're saying is we've got to provide the data the executives want to see. And we're reminding ourselves that some data at the lower levels they don't care about that, but they need to see it. They need to see the connection. They need to see the chain of value that's coming through our process. So let's go a little deeper here. Start with why, the first step in the model. The model is behind me here. So we start with that first step with why. We bring this design thinking principle, using a problem-solving approach to handle problems on a systematic level or systems level. So in other words, we want a system or routine of questions and analysis that we want to do here to make sure we clearly understand the business connection. Alignment is the key here. Are we solving a problem or taking advantage of an opportunity? Well, the manifesto started because we had a series of problems of delays, inefficiencies, waste, excessive cost, customer dissatisfaction. So we usually start with a problem we have. It could be that we're doing okay, we just want to do better. That's an opportunity. Either way, we want a clear listing of the specific measures we want to change. That's the starting point. As our partner in Australia says, we want to start where we want to finish. And that's our critical point here, starting where we want to finish. But let's make sure we have the right solution. That is, that what we're implementing or plan to implement will actually move those business measures. And usually basically this issue, what are we doing or not doing that will influence that business measure? And how can we get this implemented to achieve this performance? So here we'll look at curiosity and inquiry, trying some things. We just want people to at least say, hey, I think this will work. I think this process will actually improve these impact measures. I'm willing to give it a try. That's the way a participant is validating, I think we got a right solution here. But you might do a little more analysis to get to that. Sometimes we look at data and records. Sometimes we use diagnostic tools to make sure what's causing our problems that we're having, and will this actually improve it? We have some discussions with the person who wants this, the person who needs this. We might even reference some case studies showing what has been done and could be done, or maybe some benchmarking. And so sometimes we use evaluation as a hook there. We're trying to get this person to give us some good, clear business measures. And one way to do this is say, in the end, what kind of data do you want to see? Think about the value chain. They almost always say impact, okay? That's what we want to start with. What are those impacts? So we're trying to get them to work with us, maybe involve others. And we want to make sure we avoid any disasters. We've all seen disasters. Hopefully it's other people's disasters, but we can learn from them. The point we're making is that these are the first two steps of our process. Very important. Start with why, make sure we have the right solution. Then we expect success. And it has those things that I talked about before. We define success. We set objectives at multiple levels, and we expand responsibilities. Now, key part of this is setting objectives at different levels. Very clear, specific objectives. Sometimes we call those SMART objectives. Some people call those objectives with key results. Very precise objective at the different levels. I have an exercise here I want to go with you together. So these are different objectives from projects. 10 different objectives. And they're collecting different levels of data. Remember, we have reaction. That's how people are reacting to our project, the value they see in it. We have learning, the knowledge and skills they're acquiring to make it successful. Application is they're actually doing something now, using something. Impact is an impact measure in the system, and it's user productivity or output or quality, waste, errors, time savings, those kinds of things. Something is there now. That's a consequence of the application. And then ROI is just a comparison of monetary benefits to cost. That's calculated with a benefit cost ratio, or ROI as a percent. So now, given that definition, let's look at the complete objective. After completing this program, participants should decrease complaints by 20% in 1 year. If we collected data to see if we've met that, what is our level of evaluation? Is it 1, reaction, 2, learning, 3, application, 4, impact, 5, ROI? You want to open your mic and tell us?
You're more than welcome to unmute yourself and go ahead and shout out the answer. You can also pop it in chat. and we'll let everyone know. We're going to go through each of these.
Yeah, we're going to move quickly here, just to save time. So the first one, we're getting some results.
Up, we're getting a 4s. Very good.
Forrest, we
Yep.
agree with that. That's an impact. Hey, that could come right out of your agile projects. You have fewer complaints on what you've done now with this process, with agile in place. How about after completing this program, participants should use agile skills to make changes quickly. So we're using skills. Is that reaction, learning,
Oh, Jack,
application?
we're getting 3s. So they're
Threes.
faster than you are.
Well, that's good. I like that. Threes, yes. And how about next one? Be able to demonstrate how to conduct a process review meeting. What do you think? Reaction, learning,
2s.
application?
Very
Twos.
good.
Oh, we're
Yes.
good. Twos. And now decrease the amount of time required for a customer transaction. That's you can see we're doing something, maybe it's a process with the customers. We're
4s.
trying to
So
reduce that time. Fours.
everyone's saying
Hey,
4. Yep.
we're perfect. Good. 20% ROI a year after the agile development.
Andre, very good. 5. They are right
Five,
on
yes.
that one.
All right, number 6. What do you have there? It's relevant to my work.
We got a little hesitancy here. Up 1s. Very good. Very
One.
nice.
Yeah, we go with 1. It's a reaction. It's very important. That's an important reaction. And decrease security breaches by 25% in 6 months.
4. Very good.
4, good. Reduce the number of bill failures by 10%.
We're getting 4s again. Very
4,
nice.
good. That's good. 4. Score an average of 20 or better on an agile quiz.
Oh, we're getting 2s. This is a
2,
great group. I'll go
and recommend the program to others.
1s. Very
1.
nice.
Hey, perfect. You got them right. How many got all of them right? Hey, so Emily says that wasn't that hard, was it, Emily? See, what we have to do is just think about having very clear objectives, as specific as we can. It gives people the focus. You'll get more performance, and you'll get to where you want to be. And we ultimately go into level 4 here. So now we're going to make it matter. Here we're making it matter to the people who are doing this. The key design thinking principle we're using is empathy, putting ourselves in the position of the poor soul that's involved in our program, the participant, making it easy for them, making it possible for them, removing as many barriers for them, understanding their world. And also maybe the manager of this person, manager of the person who has to make this work. Hey, they're so busy, they don't have time to work with us, but their influence is so important. So we have to put ourselves in their position to make sure they're supporting this quite well. Otherwise, it won't work. Make it matter. That's for reaction and learning. It starts with input, though. Input is who's there, making sure we have the right people involved in our program who can make it work. Reaction and learning. Then we make it stick. Here's where we want to make that it's being used and used routinely in the job, making it stick. Here we're going to try some things to make it work. And I would offer you something here that might be helpful. We have a document that we developed for people who are doing this virtually now. It's virtual learning. It's 30 techniques to design virtual learning to deliver impact and ROI. 30 techniques. You can see we've experimented with our clients. We've seen our clients experiment, and we know others have done this. So we're giving you 30 that we've been involved with that work. Designing for application and impact. You've got to get there. Application. If they don't use it, it's a waste, but we can help them. So much of our design often focuses on what's happening when we teach them, the learning. That's important, but you got to have application. So we'd be happy to get that document to you, designing for application and impact. Here we're looking at collecting data. We work off the objectives. We ensure the transfer to the workplace. make sure they're using what we're providing to them. It's basically designing for application and impact. Now we have this issue. Make it credible. Hey, that's the big one, you remember? 5 steps. There they are. 5 steps in the methodology. The detail is probably beyond what we can cover today, but they're very good common sense issues. They're described in the chapter that we're giving you and in the application guide. You've got a page in the application guide for each of those 5. Or sorting out the effects of the program is an important issue. We go from matching groups. We try this with one group, compare it to another. We do some trending analysis as another technique, a little mathematical modeling, even another technique, but it may be an estimate from the most credible source will get us there. An estimate of how much of that impact is actually connected to the agile work. When we do that, we're going to follow one of the standards of the ROI methodology, and that's to adjust for the error that's in that estimate. So you can get it. You can do it every time. It's one of the standards. It's one of the steps in the process. We can always do it. We can get there. Getting data to money is not that difficult because someone has already calculated the monetary value. You see, if it's taking too long to do things, someone often calculates what is it costing us? Or if there's too many errors, waste, errors, rework, what's it costing us for that? So we've got some good measures already there. It's a matter of trying to find that. Find where we have that data. People who capture that data and report that data would be a great source for us. And then the intangibles. We're going to collect data around the intangibles, making sure that it's connected, asking the people involved, tell us the extent to which this project is driving or influencing this measure on a 1 to 5 scale. It's a simple process. Then we put all of the cost in. You're quite good with cost. And then we have our calculating ROI. And it looks this way, 2 different ways. Benefit cost ratio is just the benefits over cost. And we'll get that number. And we say for every $1 we invest, this is the amount of the monetary benefits that we're getting. Now, ROIs is the what we're making off of this. This is the earnings, our benefits minus the cost. See, the benefits might be cost avoidance, but we're spending this much money on an agile program. The difference in these two is how much we've actually earned with this project. Earnings, even though it's cost avoidance, we're avoiding more costs by spending some cost here. And the cost of the program, again, is listed in the bottom. Put 100 times 100 here gets us to a percent that we need. So it's ROI expressed as a percent. We know that. Most people know that. You know it with your personal savings. Personal savings is what you get from your financial institution. Maybe it's 3% these days. That's pretty low. But you should get more than that from the agile investment. And by the way, the ROI question is a fair question. You ask that yourself when you make a purchase. Many of the purchases you make, you think, am I getting enough to make this worthwhile? Is this costing more than what I think I will get out of it? And this is always saying for the funder for our program, the supporters of our program, we're giving them this kind of data. Now we can tell a story. Here we're using storytelling, as I mentioned. We have good numbers, 6 types of data, and narratives, the stories along the way to make it come to life, make it meaningful. Then we optimize our results. We're going to use this data to make it better. If we got success, we're going to make it even more successful. See, this is a logic of business strategy. It's process improvement and optimization. And when we do that, we make a great case for getting more funds. We want a better allocation to fund our program. We measure, improve, and influence funding. We want to keep Agile going. The way you do that is show the value of Agile. That's what we're doing here. There you have it. 12 easy steps. It's that easy. Now, why should you do this? I think some of you said, I got pressure already. I've got people asking me for this. I can't get my budget approved without this. Yes, that's the number one these days. The number one reason people are using this is right on the top there. is the budgets. Now, we can also connect our project to the business. See, everyone wants us to be aligned to the business, even if we're in a non-business organization. By the way, most of our work is not in business anymore. It's in non-business areas. Show the contribution of selected projects. Hey, what did we contribute? It builds that respect that we need. We can build a team morale. Everyone involved in a project like to know they've made a difference and get more support for this. And we make it better. Remember, process improvement. And if it's not working so well, we improve it. We'd only eliminate it if it is no way that this process can work. I doubt that's going to happen. That would be a rare case. And then we can say, hey, it's working here. Let's try this in another area. And we get a seat at the table if we want one. So that's why we should do it. Remember, if you think about where you are now, when it comes to delivering results here, hope is not a strategy. Luck is not a factor. Doing nothing is not an option these days. Hey, things have changed. Our accountability requirements have changed. Change is inevitable. Progress that we make is optional. It's up to us. It's up to you. Here's some materials we have.
So Jack, I'll go ahead and take over from here. Appreciate your time. And I want to thank Jack Phillips, Ravi, Steve, and Nagesh for joining us today. And to you as well. In your portal, in your Kajabi portal, you'll get access to these resources, including Chapter 4 from the Value for Money. If you have issues logging into your portal, please let me know. All you have to do is sign in with the account and password you used to sign up for this webinar. In addition to this, we've got, I want to thank Flowsphere for joining us today, as well as Smooth Apps. Both Nagesh and Ravi are part of these. And then if you have an Agile project coming up, they will build serious capability to evaluate Agile programs. We have a great project for you. It ends in becoming a certified ROI professional, and it ends in a published case study in one of our new books, Proving the Value of Agile Programs, Real Studies from Top Agile Providers. Webinar attendees will see 10% off. Visit the website, visit the special Agile program, take a look. We'd love to have you there, get some interest in Agile, really bring it out and get that, get the word out there about why we need to measure. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. The Academy stuff's here. And if you have any questions, please let Nagesh, Jack, Steve, or Ravi know. Their contact information is here, and you're going to get the slide deck as well. I want to again thank everyone for joining us today, and the recording will be available shortly. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.